Hey, what's up, everybody? Brooke here. I hope you are all having a glorious day. It is Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, and it's around 10:30 in the morning. I am on break, but because I'm not eating, I'm doing intermittent fasting right now. I am in my car hanging out. I was going to take like a little bit of a nap, but I only have half an hour, so I'm like, whatever. Let me just jump on video and make this video that I actually wanted to make yesterday. So this is not really a topic I've talked about, but consider this another vlog. Consider this just another vlog. um, I was going to talk about this yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to. So backtrack a little bit. I am someone that's interested in conspiracy theories. I've always been interested in conspiracy theories, not like the life-altering, scary ones, because there's definitely rabbit holes you can go down that'll like really jam you up for a few days, you know what I mean, when you really think about certain things. But more or less the conspiracies that show us that there's more to this world than we know. And I am of the strong belief that there are many, many books that can be written on all of the things that we don't know, right? Libraries full of books of things that we don't know. I remember hearing something years ago about how we only know a small percentage of the marine life and of what's really in the ocean. So I always thought that was like so mysterious and mystical almost, and just very like intriguing, There's many different conspiracies that you can go down, and conspiracies are really, they're interesting because like some of them obviously are like ridiculous, but there are ones that you have to really question, like maybe there's something more to this. And this one in particular, I believe, is one of them. There's several that I believe are that as well, but this one in particular I believe is one of them. Now, I feel like in a world where you can get lost in like just nonsense, right? You could just be watching shows and like, just like kind of mind-numbing things. I'm someone that's very interested in learning more about my surroundings, the world around me, and just what else there could be out there. And this topic actually came to my attention about 5 years ago. What's 2018, 2023? Damn, time's flying. So I actually found out about it from my little sister, who I love to pieces. I'm going to be monitoring the time because I'm on break. I was in Yellowstone for my 10th wedding anniversary. My husband and I, we don't do gifts like that. We like to go away. We like to do something as a family. So we went to Yellowstone for the second time. For our honeymoon, we went the first time I went was at my honeymoon. And I love Yellowstone. Like, I'll pitch a tent and live there. I love Yellowstone. It's like one of my favorite places in the world. But anyways, and Yellowstone's very interesting in itself. That's another video. But my sister, she sends me a text and she's like, "Oh, I'm so worried about you guys. I just watched this documentary. It's about missing 411, and be very careful. People are going missing in national parks." And she sent me this whole long text message, right? And I'm like, "Listen, D, like I'll look into it when I get home. Don't worry about us. We'll be fine, right?" So that was really like my introduction of ever even hearing what missing 411 was. So I remember later that night I was doing billing because I had my business at this time, and I'm like, let me look into missing 411. And I started to like just Google things. I went onto a couple Reddit pages. One second, let me just wipe that. That was bothering me. And I'm like kind of getting a cursory overview for what it was, but I was like, she doesn't have to worry about it. This sounds way out there, right? Because I also believe that there are conspiracies that are true, that fake conspiracies will prop up to take away from the real one, right? Like to take away from the real story, which I guess wouldn't even be a conspiracy. But anyway, let me circle back. But anyway, so like a couple of years later, right around COVID, around the time of the pandemic, I had a little bit of time off for about a week before I went back to work because I was working at a machine shop. We were considered essential. So my boss took off for a week, assessed the situation, and was like, we got to get back to work. We were in the breakdown business. We were fixing these garbage trucks, and they couldn't be off the road. You know what I mean? So I start, I have a little more free time. I'm working, but I'm not as busy as I was. And I really had a time to read books that I didn't get a chance to, that were all earmarked on my desk or my bookshelf that, I just wasn't getting around to. I read a lot. And I also looked into missing 411. I gave it a fair shake. And I have to say, like, it's a very loaded topic because when people hear missing 411, they immediately think like aliens and like Bigfoot and things like that. And it's I think of all these different things, right? They think of all the YouTube videos where people will put Missing 411 in the title and just kind of like bastardize the story, and like it's creepy enough. You don't have to add to it. You know what I mean? But I really started to learn about the stories around Missing 411, and I really started to question, like, is this a real thing, right? So there's the pretty much the very quick crappy summation that I could give you in the time frame that I have is that Missing 411 is almost like a phenomenon, right? There's people that go into the woods, specifically national parks. Doesn't always have to be a national park, but oftentimes the national park, or the wilderness, let's just say, and they go missing, and they're never found, they're never heard from again, and they usually go missing in like weird circumstances. If they are found, it's highly nefarious. Like, there's so many, I could literally rattle off so many stories, and I don't want to get like pigeonholed into one story, because if you're interested in learning about this, I can certainly talk about it. But I'm learning about it. It started to really freak me out, so I stopped looking into it. I'm like, okay, let me just be very careful when I'm in the woods, right? But so anyway, so people are going missing, and there's no rhyme or reason, and a lot of times these people are like professionals in some kind of field. Like maybe they were a police officer, they were in some type of law enforcement, maybe they were hunters. A lot of times they're hunters. A lot of times they're proficient in like swimming or something that's they're agile, they're very intelligent. Or sometimes they're, maybe they have some type of challenge. Like there's always some type of criteria that these people fit. And a lot of times, like if they are found, like they're found with like no shoes, or sometimes they're found alive and they have no shoes, or they're found in like weird situations where like children will go missing, and they're like this one case that I read. I'm just going to mention the one case because I always thought this one was weird. There was this child that went missing for days, right? And there was like a big search, and these are all verified by police, documentation, files, things of that nature. And this child's missing for like 3 days, and there's a period of time when, you can only go so long without water, specifically in the wilderness in the summer. And also for children, unfortunately, they wind up in very precarious situations, and that's often their demise when they're by themselves, or God forbid they get kidnapped, things of that nature. So this kid was found like in the middle of like a river or a lake of some sort, and he was just like sitting on a rock, and they went to go get the child, and he was like bone dry, and he was eating like berries. And they're like, where did you get this? How did you get here? Like, there's so many weird stories like that. And then they always have some fantastical story of what happens that's completely unbelievable, but is it? Like it's weird when a lot of these stories happen. You're like, what's really going on? So anyway, so I there's just like, that's like a very like I'm brazing over that, right? I'm just like, flying over that story. There's a lot of stories like that. So many stories like that. Like even people who are found that have passed away. It's like this one guy. Oh, there's so many stories I can get into. This one guy hiked miles, and he was found, and he was like almost running from something, and he had no shoes on. He hiked in the wilderness, and he hiked his skin down to like foot pads down to like the bone. Like, can you imagine how excruciatingly painful that must have been? Like maybe he was in some type of hysteria, like just weird stuff, right? So anyway, so there's a lot of people that go missing and are never found, or when they go missing and they are found, they're found years later in an area that was searched heavily multiple times for years. You know what I mean? Like or it's trekked around, like it's a high traffic area. So recently, being on this job site, I've been put to doing different tasks that require me to, I'm by myself or whatever, which I prefer. And, like I'm just, instead of listening to music or listening to another audiobook, which I like, but, I like reading. I'm not really someone that likes to just listen to audiobooks all the time. I started to really dive back into the Missing 411 files, and I learned about, oh my God, I texted somebody just passed my car. I was like, I learned about this gentleman named David Paulides. He's a retired police officer, and he is a very, very interesting guy. When I first started listening to him, I was like, oh, this guy's trying to sell books. He's trying to sell documentaries. I'm very much of like a pessimist, and with things like that, because I always feel like people are trying to make money, right? Which we all have to make money. We all have to, pay our bills, whatever. But I didn't want him to, be someone that was just like another huckster type of thing. But the more I got to listen to this guy, the more intrigued I became, truly. And the more he came off like a stand-up guy. And I like to think I'm a good judge of character for the most part. Granted, I don't know this guy, but I've been watching his videos, and I have a lot of questions. And they're questions that are like, okay, I buy it. Now why? You know what I mean? So, there's just a lot of different angles, of this conspiracy. There's the alien angle, which I'm not someone that's going to say there's no aliens, but I always been very highly, suspect of aliens, Then there's the Bigfoot angle, which for many years I was like, that's a freaking psyop. That's ridiculous. But the more you listen to these stories, you're like, what the hell is it then? You know what I mean? It's very weird. And then you're kind of like, and then he has this whole, David Paulides has this whole, I don't know, this whole series on Bigfoot and things like that. And I'm like, all right, let me listen to one video. This is ridiculous. After the first hour, I was like, holy smokes, I think Bigfoot's real. You know what I mean? What the hell? So anyway, so this is I'm kind of just rambling because I wanted to talk about this topic because I feel like, we're just having a conversation, or I'm having a conversation to a camera, and anybody who's watching is also joining in. There's a lot to be said for the time of the time and earth that we're living in, right? This time frame and the things that are going on. And it's interesting when you're listening to a guy who's been researching this for many, many years. And his documentaries I haven't watched. His first one I was starting to watch, and I got very bothered by a case with a young child who was 3 or 4 years old. And I forgot his name, so I don't want to talk about the case because I don't want to be disrespectful about it just being a case and not remembering this young boy. But the case really, really bothered me because there's no answers for what happened to this child, and he was found years later, miles up a mountain, weird. His clothes were clean, his shoes were just it's a very weird case. And then even the town around this case, they were very hush, and even law enforcement was trying to stop searches. It's just very weird, and they only ever found his clothes and a piece of bone and I think a tooth, just strange. So anyway, so I've been watching a lot of David Paulides, and you try not to get stuck into rabbit holes, but there is the whole missing 411 phenomenon is really incredible. It's the more you learn about what's going on, with these cases, the more you really have to question. Long Beach Police Traffic Division, I just fought them over a BS ticket. Anyway, the more you really have to question, why these things happen and who's involved with these things happening. Is it paranormal? Is it aliens? Are there beings that we don't know exist that are doing these things? Are there portals? The whole portal theory scares the hell out of me. There's a lot that I don't know. It's just, there's no answers for, you know what I mean? But what you do have is you have stories. You have real, verifiable, police documented, eyewitness statements, stories from very strange cases that are happening, specifically surrounding the wilderness, surrounding national parks. And there's really not a lot of people that talk about this. Now, people on YouTube that talk about it, they do it it's interesting. It's an interesting time. I'm watching David Paulides, and I've watched Mr. Bear or whatever his name is. But that, he seems cool, but it's very sensationalized. If these things are really happening, right, then it shouldn't be a sensationalized topic. People should be okay, well, what's going on, It just seems very... Is there a spiritual element of it? Is there a God element? Which as a Christian, I believe there's always a God element to everything. But is there things we just don't know? Is there a cover up? What is it? You know what I mean? What could it possibly be? So I was just listening to David earlier, and I really like his take on a lot of things. He seems like a very genuine, nice guy. You know what I mean? His son had passed away recently, and just you can feel the pain in this guy's voice, and I just couldn't even imagine. So he just seems very honest, you know what I mean? And listen, he could be dead wrong about everything. He could be dead wrong. But when you're looking into these cases, when you're looking into the pieces that are being put together in front of you, creates a very interesting picture. And I'll leave it at that. I have to go back to work right now. But if you are someone that follows Missing 411, let me know your take. Let me know what you think about it. It's strange. It's strange. And it's strange to have so many cases that are similar, that are all from all around the world, from, different time periods, even during a time like when, I mean, granted, you have telephone, you tell a story, and you tell it so much, things can change, right? But similar cases that happen at similar times, or a similar case, a very similar case that happened 100 years apart. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of weird, kids talking about, like, kids going missing, being found days later when they probably should have, met their demise in the wilderness, right? No water, no food. Food you can go a while without, but water specifically, and then being found and talking and coming back talking about, like, talking animals and stuff, and being examined saying, okay, this kid's, like, in good health. Like, this kid's fine. Doesn't even seem like the kid was missing for, for days. Or this one case, there was a little girl that went missing, and she swears that, everybody was looking for her, nobody could find her, whatever, for days. And she says that there was a couple in the woods that lived in a cabin, and they took care of her. They fed her dinner, and they gave her breakfast, and she played outside, and they told her to go along. And then she turned around, there was no cabin. Like, just weird stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, weird stuff. Reminds me of Spirited Away, if you guys ever saw that movie. When the whole movie is interesting, but, like, at the end, they're like, just keep going, don't turn around. And then she goes through the tunnel, and then she turns around, and there's nothing there, right? And then at the end, you just see, like, the little sparkle of a headband that she had from one of the characters from the other land that she came from, right? Anyways, the whole thing, I could really get into it. Like, conspiracies are really, really interesting. It makes you sound crazy, but for anybody that's into them, like, you get it. You know what I mean? Like, you get it. It's just interesting. So that's my fasting brain talking about conspiracies, or Missing 411 conspiracy. If you like videos like this and you want me to talk more about this, I can talk about different cases. Let me know in the comments below, and I will check you guys back again on the next video. Take care, friends.